Greetings, everyone. Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool.
I know.
It feels so right.
It's Jake Ciely.
Opening our minds to new ideas. Kill him!
Who is that guy? Your mama.
You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in fantasy days of the range.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
Game on, you ducks. It is All in Fantasy. It is week 4 of the NFL season already. We were like quarter-ish. We're now kind of like a fifth-ish heading into a quarter-ish of the way through the season. Actually, if this is the old season, it would be directly a quarter because 16 weeks, but we get that extra week now. So it's weird. If you're in Survivor and you're still alive, congratulations on being the what? Like I had one last night. I know. I had somebody last night. 27 out of 900 plus are left. It's just, I'm so jealous because this feels like this is the perfect opportunity to survive. But at the same time, like, well, we're just one of them. They're one of us, one of you. Everybody's out. But we're here for waivers. I heard Meaney say I'm going to ask him real quick and find out. But, of course, we're going to talk some worries, power-up players, all sorts of stuff. A big week for Jauan Jennings. And there's still stuff on the waiver wire to help you guys. There wasn't a ton of injuries this week, but there are a ton of names, especially at wide receiver, that I think we should talk about. But, yeah, who'd you go out on? You said you were out.
Bengals.
Who'd you go out on? Bengals?
Bengals last night. I avoided
all four
the
top
landmine
teams
in week 1. Yeah, man, like this has really been, it's been wild. Like I'm in a Survivor with there's 40,000 people, and I think there's 125 people left. And
Really?
It's, yeah, like I don't remember anything like this. There's usually a couple upsets, but the fact that like week 2 was full of upsets and top heavy teams lost, and then this past week as well, same sort of deal. Like I was back and forth between Cleveland, didn't matter, Bengals, didn't matter, Bucks, didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
No,
so I'm looking right now.
Crazy.
I did the Splash Sports one. It was $100 in first place. It was $1 million, which is why I did it. 11,112 entries, 728 left. 6.5% are left after 3 weeks.
And good for them, because they would have had to pretty much avoided all of the big favorites and just take
the main favorite has lost all 3 weeks, and then one of the other top 4 have lost all 3 weeks. And actually in week 3, the top 4 picked teams all lost. This is just insane. So congratulations to you made it. But if that doesn't tell you anything you need to know about football and sports, and that our job is pretty tough, then we're just trying to give you all the information that we parse through, and hopefully you can be better than us, because in that facet, we done. Let's talk good news, though. Let's talk a lot of good news off the top. There are 2 major concern wide receivers that we had through 2 weeks that both had huge 3 weeks. They had huge week 3s. It was a big game for Diontae Johnson with Andy Dalton at quarterback. And then it started off, we're like, oh my God, he did it again. Terry McLaurin's wide open. Jaden Daniels overthrew him. Freaking laser cannon out there when Terry McLaurin's wide open. And like, dude, put some damn touch on the ball, Colin Kaepernick. Chill out. And then he hits him not once, but twice. One time for a touchdown that just, by the way, great drop in pass, and also great catch by Terry McLaurin to make that. And it's a huge week for both of them. Is it as simple as saying week 3, your worries dropped all the way down to a 0 or 1? Everything's great. Everything's fixed. Go straight steam ahead. Top 25 wide receivers, Diontae Johnson and Terry McLaurin.
I want to say yes. The thing with Terry, it may not be
you
as
hesitated too much to say I want to say yes.
Well, like 25, you kind of got me on 25. I'd say like
well, that's where they were drafted. That's why I said that.
I'd say Diontae is more of a high end 3. I'd say they're both kind of high end 3s. I think there may be more consistency with Diontae and his targets given Andy Dalton, right? Because he's probably going to pass the ball a little bit more, and it's still a rookie. Like, you're laying out Jaden Daniels' game, and by the way, like, that was basically the only mistake he made. He had 2 incompletions, and he had 3 total touchdowns, which is remarkable to think about. But there may be just some inconsistencies in Terry, right? Because pretty quiet the first 3 weeks. Even week 2, caught a few passes, had some targets, but didn't do anything with those. We saw last night what you and I wanted to see: the strengths of Jaden Daniels and pushing the ball down the field. So I feel a lot better about both of those guys. Yeah, I'd say, this time last week, Diontae Johnson was in like the 50s for me. So he wasn't even startable.
For rest of the season, or you mean like as in like
before
week
Dalton
3?
got under center? Yeah, before
Okay.
Dalton got under center. And it was Bryce Young. But yeah, no, I feel good about both of them. Like I said, I think there's maybe a little bit more of a floor there with Diontae, given the fact that it's probably going to be Andy Dalton the rest of the year.
Okay. Well, then what about Terry? Is Terry higher or lower than Diontae for you?
I'd say I think there's a little bit more of a ceiling with him, right? I really liked him heading into the season. He's always had 1,000 yards. It was just the touchdowns, right? We talked about him so many times. Like, if he can get to 7 or 8 touchdowns, he's going to be a top 15 wide receiver. And we saw a couple shots last week. Probably should have had 3 touchdowns. So yeah, I'd like him a little bit more. I think the ceiling is higher for Terry McLaurin, but I think there will be some highs and lows. Like, and maybe in 2 weeks, we're saying, Terry, man, that was so nice. Week 3, he's quiet again, just given the quarterback play, and it's going to be a run first squad. Like, they're going to run the rock.
Yeah,
Downs on quarter.
Well, so that's where I go with Terry McLaurin. Is I consider Zay Flowers, and that's why I would consider him both back end of the top 25. But I think that's what you're looking at is like you're gonna have to understand and live and die. So I mean, we could do it. It might get kind of big, but I mean, there's a way to figure out if they are both.
What could we do?
Top 25. What could we do? I don't know. If you're gonna go watch later on YouTube, I do have him ready behind us, right over here, behind me. So, I mean, we could just kind of make a really big one, but we could make a list.
Nice.
So I'm going to try to do this quick version because it's going to be, I know it has been too long because it's going to be really big.
Lengthy tier.
So I'm going to breeze through the top 10 and no particular order, but just kind of like I pulled up some names just to kind of look at drafts and stuff like that. Jefferson, Chase, Lamb, St. Brown, Collins, A.J. Brown, Rashee Rice, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison. I'm laughing because never would have thought top 10 with Daniel Jones at quarterback. Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Tyreek even. You're Tyreek Hill even without Tua, like because he's still top 20. He's just not the number 1 anymore. Mike Evans, Olave. I think I said Garrett Wilson, Godwin at this point, Metcalf, Adams, your boy Devonta Smith. If it went healthy, maybe he only misses 1 week. Ayuk, I'm assuming yes. London. Yes. Debo, yes. Basically the 49ers in London. 49ers are not in London, but...
Yeah.
All right. So that's 20. I just named 20. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So now I guess Zay Flowers or Terry? I'm taking Terry.
I lean Zay, but...
He had a whopping 3 catches.
Hey, 21 targets in the first 2 weeks. I mean, they ran the
I
ball
know.
in Dallas. Nobody needs to throw the ball on Dallas. They just run
So
down
here's
their
the
fields.
difference. Okay, let me make my argument. Here's the difference. Zay Flowers is the top option. Like I even talked about this in the waiver column. Like worries about Mark Andrews, yes, warranted. He was only out there for like 30-some% of the routes, but it's Zay Flowers and nobody else. Like it used to be Mark Andrews and then who's the wide receiver. Now it's Zay Flowers and who's the second. And it might be Mark Andrews. It might be Likely. It might be Bateman. It's all kind of a mess right now. So I do think that combination of Bateman, Andrews, and Likely is a bigger threat each week to Flowers, including Derrick Henry at the backfield, than Ertz, Eckler, Noah Brown, and the rest of Terry McLaurin. So that's why I give McLaurin the slight edge. Did I come around on that?
I do agree with that, but I still would go Flowers. Yeah, I mean, I can't ignore the first 2 weeks
50-50.
and the matchup on Dallas, right? Like they didn't have to throw the football against that squad.
Here's an interesting one. Caleb Williams had a great week 3, but DJ Moore or Terry McLaurin.
Oh man, I'm still gonna lean DJ. I'm still gonna lean with DJ Moore. Yeah.
By the way, Terry McLaurin over Diontae, right? Because we don't know. Okay, we also Bryce Young at some point when their season potentially is completely over. Bryce Young, they got to. They have to turn back to Bryson Young.
Yeah, if he doesn't get another start this year, I would say he's done in Carolina. I don't know.
Or somehow they're in the playoff race.
Top pick.
That's the only I'm kind of going with the fact that they're out of the playoffs and you have to go back to them at that point. Okay, so how about the highest of the ranked Packers, Jaden Reed or Terry McLaurin?
I'll go Terry there. I like Terry ahead of before the season started. I'm going to stick with my guns there. I'm going to go Terry over Jaden Reed.
Okay, Stephon Diggs or Terry McLaurin.
Diggs.
So far, I only disagree with you on Flowers. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Diggs.
Okay,
We might
so
not get him
Diggs.
into the top 25.
Jameson Williams, after what happened in week 3.
Nah, it's
I think
gonna
this
be
is-
boomer or bust.
I would take Terry.
I think it's more consistency probably in Terry's game, despite the first couple games and how that went. Yeah, I'll lean Terry there too.
Terry over Amari Cooper? Yes. It's the freaking
That bounce
Browns.
back. Had that game.
played
Had
the
that game.
Giants.
I know.
told you.
It's funny. We did call that on the show, man. We had plus 200 for a touchdown, the 44 receiving yards. He had a couple scores, but yeah, it was the Giants. A decent matchup again this week. But yeah, I'll go Terry there. Again, this is the length tier
range.
we talked about before the season started.
This is actually the preseason tier that By the way, we're also not like that psycho. Congratulations to the psycho, but the psycho who put 250. I understand even up to $50, but put 250 down on the. I don't know if you saw this on Amari Cooper first touchdown, Jonathan Taylor first touchdown, and then last night
Chase.
Yeah, Chase first touchdown and ended up winning $111,000.
Good for him.
That's good for him. But I was like, first touchdowns? Wow. All right.
First touchdowns.
Pickens versus Terry. Terry.
Yeah, I got Terry there.
You know where I'm going with this one. Higgins.
I like
Terry.
I like Higgins.
Even
Bengals
after
are
that
in
game.
trouble.
Yeah.
It's first game, and Burrow missed him wide open in the end zone.
He did.
He
also missed. How many times was he going to throw it to Higgins stepping out of bounds? Like, good God. Like, I don't know. I got to go back and watch. This is what I do. Like, Monday afternoon, I watched a lot of games. There's some information on Jared Goff I want to get to. But, like, later today, I'm going to go back and kind of, like, switch the angles and the all-22 and all that type of stuff. Like, I don't know if that was Higgins drifting too far or Burrow waiting too long or, like, what. But it was just like, good God, just throw it a second earlier while he's actually in bounds.
I'd say he waited too long, personally. But, T should have had a much better day. It was his first game. So, I mean, they're going to be past happy.
Here, anybody else in this range? Nakua, Cup, either one of them, not knowing what their situations are. So you're shaking your head no. Smith and Jigba, Brian Thomas,
not with the injuries. The Brian Thomas, no. Worthy, no.
Okay, well, here's the good news.
I think that's it.
Terry McLaurin's inside the top 25.
Yeah, Boom. He's just there, right?
He's 24 for you.
There.
He's 23 for me.
And I think his ceiling is higher again if he can get those touchdowns. It was just really nice to see the confidence, the poise that Jaden Daniels had in the pocket last night. It was very, very impressive. And credit to Dan Quinn going for it on fourth down situations, trusting his rookie quarterback. It was a really, really good game. And I don't want to. The Bengals defense was absolutely atrocious last night, but I want to give Daniels his flowers, and he did a lot of good things last night.
You want to give Daniels flowers? That's a lot of weapons.
I'd love to send them to him because he's looking like a potential league winner, and I don't want to over-exaggerate on just one game, but he is. Like, we said it before the season started. Why is Anthony Richardson going in round 4 and Jaden Daniels is going around 9 and 10? You can leave your draft. You could have been your last pick in round 13 or 14 before you took defenses or kickers if you play in those leagues. Sorry. And you could have just been your last pick, and you have something, man. You really do. He's running a lot. He slid last night for the first time, I think, in like his 24 or 30 rushing attempts.
Are you ready to say it then? Are you ready to say Jaden Daniels over Anthony Richardson the rest of the season?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. Do you know how many quarterbacks have more fantasy points than Jaden Daniels?
Like 2.
Nope. Josh Allen, end of list.
Yeah.
He's got more than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ready to say him over Lamar, but...
Well, because here's the difference. What does Lamar not do? Lamar doesn't run into the end zone. He's smart in that facet. Jaden Daniels is doing it. Like, I don't know if it's smart for Jaden Daniels to do it, but because the funny thing is, like, even at the end of the game, Nicole was like, "Is that the quarterback? He's so lean." I was like,
he is, and he's taking some shots already. Like, if she watched him a couple weeks ago, actually, the first game of the season, his helmet popped off like 3 times. He is lean. He can't take those shots.
I have so much Jaden Daniels because I was in on this, and I have tons of him. And every time he runs the ball, like, my butthole clenches. Like, I'm like, this is like,
it's like, dude, Slide. I was yelling last night. Slide. I know. I have
Oh my
a lot
god!
of
When
them
he
too, and
went
I'm
when he
excited.
went for the straight regular run up the middle and then had to get tackled going
yeah.
head first on that, I'm like, oh
Wasn't
my
that on
god! Come on,
fourth
okay,
down?
is he okay? Is he okay? All right.
Yeah.
What's not okay for my transition? How about that? Is I was going to go with the two wide receiver situations, but I want to touch on Jared Goff real quick because I want to get your opinion. We touched on this in Sirius XM briefly yesterday, and then I went back because yesterday afternoon was when I got to go into it more, and I actually went through every single pass attempt by Jared Goff, and I'm like, something's off. Like, what is off this year? And I'm watching Arizona, like, man, they are playing a lot of zone, and they're playing a lot of shell kind of like the basic. I mean, there's no other way to really put it. It's just like that shell zone where they're just trying to keep everything underneath, stop from the overtop. There was speaking of the Chase situation, or not Chase, the Higgins situation, and as I watched the one, it was Jameson Williams where he started on the right and cut across, and he missed a big play downfield. Jared Goff waited about a spit too long on that play. And I'm watching, I'm like, but this is Jared Goff. And I was like, I feel like Jared Goff can do this against zone. And I actually looked back. So heading into this season, basically since he's been with the Lions, since the 2019 season, actually the end of the Rams, Jared Goff's been better against zone than he is man. I'm like, well, this does not make sense because I'm watching the Arizona game and it's like, it's zone. They're shelling the crap out of him. So I looked at it, and Arizona actually went from 62% zone defense in the first 2 weeks to over 80%, the second highest team in week 3, which tells me something's off with Goff and zone, and this is a different form of zone possibly. I'm not going to go back and watch every single game from the last 4 years, but just in my mind of how we've talked before with my off-season article, how zone is being implemented a lot more, and it's not the zone you used to know. This isn't zone. This isn't a 4-3 zone or even a 4-2 zone with nickel, or like it's basically 3 corners, 4 corners, a safety, like, and it's not the strong safeties we used to know. This is a different zone than it was 5 years ago. So here's my concern is that he's now doing pretty well against man this year. It's great, this small sample, only 3 games. But Arizona had a game plan. And this is what I said in the article, Meaney. It reminds me of that terrible season with the Rams. And if you remember, Emory Hunt was the one who pointed this out to me. And then everybody started catching on. He was the first person I saw anywhere mention this, is that the Rams, it was a big back and forth with the headset with Sean McVay. And defenses started waiting to get into full formation. They were kind of just like moving around and nobody was really getting set or showing what they were doing because they were waiting for the headset to click off, because it clicks off because you don't get it all the way up for the full time that they're out there. And when that happened was that shift that 1 year where all of a sudden Goff stunk for those last couple games of the season. And it was because they realized Sean McVay was feeding him so much information that, wait, we'll just disguise and Goff can't figure it out himself. So long version short, Meaney, defenses might be figuring out Jared Goff again. And I'm concerned for Jared Goff being that top 10, top 12 quarterback because he plays so many indoor games. Or spelling that all out for you, are you as concerned? In the long form version, now short form version.
I am concerned. He's been probably... And I don't know the expectations, maybe they weren't high, but they probably should have been just from like a real life standpoint, because this is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, right? They're just like one play away from going to the Super Bowl last year. And we talked so much in the offseason about all those dome games. But yeah, I'm concerned with a lot of things. The decision making, one, has been awful. The accuracy has not been on point. I thought that they got away from the run game. This team probably needs to get back to running the football, using some play action, and taking some deep shots. Sam Laporta is nowhere to be found at all. It's nice that Jameson's having that breakout, but he needs Sam Laporta, or he needs to feed him the ball. Sam, help each other out here. I didn't see a whole lot of the zone that you're talking about against Goff in that game. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward if that's the matchup. Like, does Seattle, it's a copycat league, does Seattle this week run a similar defense? A lot of teams are kind of playing that way. Don't I'm not going to allow you to beat me over the top, and I'm not going to give up the big plays. If you want to take the underneath stuff, go ahead. And I've seen a little bit of underneath from Jameson Williams more than I thought. I expect him to be like more of a higher ADOT big play guy. But yeah, I am concerned with Jared Goff. It's been 3 games. It's been 3 games in a dome, and it's been 3 decent matchups. Teams have like had success against the Bucs, dating back to the start of last season against that secondary, and he threw the football like 55 times in that game, and he didn't look good at all, really at any moment. So yeah, he's putting his team into tough situations with turnovers as well. It's very, very careless. I have a couple shares of him where I took him the very last pick, and pretty bummed with how things have gone. And Seattle's a scrappy defense, so if he doesn't turn around this week, I don't know, you can hold on to him.
Seattle's sitting right about where 68% zone, right around where Arizona was heading into week 3. They were in like 62, 63%. So they, like, to your point, see, if this copy's over, I'm going to be watching this closely. And it'll be easier because we only have 2 games. And by the way, also, reminder, 2 games on Monday night. Again, we get both of them to keep an eye on if they pulled the same thing. But something to watch going forward for people that might be thinking, hey, I need another quarterback. So you might need another wide receiver. And we're going to talk waivers here shortly, but I want to talk about concerns real quick. There are more concerns in the article, of course, over at The Athletic, but the Rams as a whole, Demarcus Robinson's role is Demarcus Robinson's role. It wasn't going to change. Demarcus Robinson is still a wide receiver 4, boom bust, good weeks, bad weeks, especially now probably more busty than boomy, although that might have just got us flagged. You know what I meant. So when it comes down to the rest is, Tyler Johnson had stepped up in that role when Puka Nacua got hurt. And then in the game, Kupp got hurt. Whittington stepped up, and Whittington was the Kupp, and he was actually out there more than Johnson. This turned out to be an in-game adjustment because week 3 rolls around. Whittington's 4th, Tyler Johnson's 3rd, and Demarcus Robinson running alongside 1 and 2, with 1 being Tutu Atwell, and Tutu Atwell being the one also in the target share, and plays seemingly designed for Tutu Atwell. Eating crow on this one to the person that asked me that was like, why aren't you in on Tutu Atwell? It's like, because Tutu Atwell is Tutu Atwell. That's who he is. Like, okay, cool. He might get 400 and 400 at the end of the year. Like that's, because they'll use him in runs. But he's clearly the guy. The question is do you have any interest in any Rams wide receiver? Is it Tutu Atwell and you're just off all the rest until somebody comes back? Or what do you make? Because it's only 1 game, but is 1 game enough for you, Meaney?
Yeah, I'm not going to go chasing Tutu Atwell, but I'm wrong about it too. I mean, shout out to our guy Mike Randall. He put a waiver wire video out on FTN Fantasy and a Tutu Atwell, and I was like, oh wow, doesn't really care about mentioning Jordan Whittington, because I was with you on Whittington and the snaps and playing the Cooper Kupp role. I thought he'd be a little bit more involved in the game. Like I was thinking maybe 4 or 5 grabs. I wasn't thinking a whole lot of yards, but Tutu Atwell does have that high ceiling, right? He's got the speed. He can beat a defender over the top, which we did see to get the Rams back into that game. It was a deep shot down the field to Tutu Atwell. So the Bears this week, it's a tough secondary, and kind of moving forward without some of the star wide receivers that they have, I would imagine Demarcus Robinson garners the most attention for
that's the big part of it too.
Opposing defenses. Can he handle that? Right? We like him as like a 3 and a 2 to have some moments, but I don't think he can handle top corners in the NFL. He is who he is, and that's going to open up some spots for Tutu Atwell down the field. The offense clearly is going to run through Kyren Williams. This guy is going to get all the touches again that he can handle, just like last year. I'm not going crazy on Tutu Atwell. I don't think he's going to be anything more than like a wide receiver 4 come next week when there's 4 teams on bye. That's where I'm at with Tutu Atwell.
Well, so
boomer bust.
Let me ask you this toss-up. I put him 1 spot in front of this wide receiver, which somehow fell under 60%. But this wide receiver now. Again, this is relative, so I'm curious what you're going to say here is because Atwell could be a ticking clock because Kupp comes back, throw Atwell right out the door. Cooper Kupp doesn't come back for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and all of a sudden it's like, well, you have Atwell for a while. Nacua in the mix, like either one of them. But I'm kind of playing that upside here is that he seems like he's going to be the one that they rely on, especially because they're going to have to get the ball out quick. They have no offensive line. Yeah. The interesting thing in that is like they gave up the most pressure to 4-man fronts, as in not sending an extra defender. The quarterback pressure was off the charts, over almost 60% for that entire game. And yet, Kyren Williams was barely stuffed in that game, 5th lowest for the entire week. So a lot of it had to do with Kyren, but they can still run block a little bit. Like, it wasn't all Kyren. A lot of it was. Anyway, I'm throwing it all to set up the fact that they have to get the ball out quick. This wide receiver is kind of alternating every single week of who the guy is behind the big one on his team, and it's Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett fell under 60% rostership, and I would take Tutu Atwell one spot over Tyler Lockett just because at least I know from now until Kupp or Nakua comes back, Atwell will be my wide receiver 4. Like, he will be. Tyler Lockett is a wide receiver 4. Just like people don't want to hear it. Smith and Jigba is a wide receiver 4 too, until one of them breaks free of the other. Hopefully Smith and Jigba. But as of right now, you have one good week Lockett, one good week Smith and Jigba, and one so-so week for both of them. That's not going to stop happening. And so that's why I would go Atwell one spot over Lockett. Do you agree, or would you just still take Lockett?
No, I agree, given the situation in LA, because it does sound like Puka and Kupp, especially Puka, they can be silent a while. I know you say, hey, when Kupp comes back, that's it. But maybe Tutu could be something with Cooper Kupp still on the squad. Like, it is Stafford, and even though the offense, like I just said, going to run through Kyren, Stafford still chucks the ball quite a bit. I need a lot of good things in that game against the Niners. I think Lockett should be on rosters, and you're right. It's probably going to flip flop, but injuries are going to happen. Bye weeks are going to come here soon, and I think he's a pretty good player that you could just put in like a nice replacement that you can chuck into your lineup as a flex or a wide receiver 3, and you hope that at that time and that week it's him. But I think his ceiling is higher than Tutu Atwell's. I think he would agree with that. Yeah, it's just. Unfortunately, maybe to see consistency with one of the two, one of them needs to go away, and that's probably just not going to happen. It's going to be spread around. DK's the alpha, and the other guys are going to take turns, eating.
Okay. Then the other wide receivers we need to talk about are, by the way, I gave this team of 1 duck to 4 ducks because it varies by who you're talking about. So really, like, it's 1 for Demarcus Robinson just because we knew that's who he was going to be. It's a full-on 4 for Tyler Johnson. Whittington's arguably a 5, like, because he just fell to the wayside after that one performance, which is just crazy. But that whole group of Tyler Johnson and Whittington are up at 4s. But
I still kind of like him more than Tyler Johnson, but maybe I'll just
higher ceiling, absolutely. But he's got to break back through. So the Dolphins, I gave 2 to possibly Infinity Duck because it all comes down to this, in my opinion. It all comes down, is Tyler Huntley going to be under center? It's a quick turnaround to get him there because they just signed him last week. Got to get the playbook. I said that to Pat Mayo yesterday. He laughed at me, but I was dead serious. Like, 50% of the playbook for Tyler Huntley, I will take right now and keep Tyreek Hill inside my top 20, and I would even start Jalen Waddle as a wide receiver. I would still start Jalen Waddle with Tyler Huntley on a 50% playbook over Tutu Atwell because I know Jalen Waddle has the higher ceiling. But we need Tyler Huntley. And the injury to Skylar Thompson adds to the fact that Skylar Thompson is just not a very good quarterback. But if it's not Huntley, I don't know how you can start Waddle. Like, if it's not, how do you put him in your lineup? And then Tyreek Hill falls down to like wide receiver 3 territory, right?
Yeah. I mean, this sucks. I mean, injuries happen in the NFL, and, I feel you. Tyreek Hill owners, took this guy in flex, right? And it's just like the whole upside is gone. I mean, 1,700 yards back-to-back, game breaker, cheat code. It's all gone. It's all out the window. No matter who the quarterback is. You could feel better about Huntley, but it's not going to be anywhere the same. You're going to have maybe wide receiver 2 type performances. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of wide receiver 1 type performances. It's going to be extremely tough. Like, we saw both of these guys get 4 and 5 fantasy points this week. So unfortunately for Skylar Thompson, right, the injury, but this is, I guess, a positive news that we're going to get a different quarterback. I'm afraid that it may be Boyle. I would like it to be Huntley, but he also likes to run. Like, I know he's I know he's okay.
High completion percentage.
Yeah, I know he's okay as a passer, and I think maybe the fact that he is mobile will actually help. I would like to think that McDaniel's going to go with him because of his mobility, which I think will help out
What's funny?
everybody in the offense.
So they were talking about hot seat coaches last night, and I was like, I of course brought up McCarthy, and somebody said McDaniel. I'm like, dude,
There's no way.
no. And on top of the fact, like, it's his fault he's had to deal with all this. It's not as bad as the
There's
49ers.
no way. But yeah, there's no way.
Yeah,
If
for
they
everybody
had
arguing
a full-
McDaniel.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, for everybody arguing with McDaniel, then why aren't you saying Shanahan? And it's because you know it's not his fault, and you know how good he is. Like, it's not his fault they're 1-2.
Yeah, I was going to just say if the team was fully healthy and they were under 500, then I could see it. But he's done a lot of good things, and I view him as one of the better play callers in the NFL. I didn't think that they ever should have signed Tua. That's an organization thing. I don't think that's on Mike McDaniel. But anyways, there's no
part of it
way.
was also, why do you not have a clear answer number 2? Like, you should have been in on Joe Flacco. Like, there's somebody behind Tua.
That's a question for the organization and the front office. And if they miss the playoffs this year and Tua doesn't play any games and they're Huntley and they're Boyle, and like that's something that will be brought up, in a couple of weeks if that happens. But I still don't think he should be on the hot seat. There's like McCarthy and Sirianni. These guys are more on the hot seat than McDaniel.
Nobody wants to say Sirianni because he's got 2 wins, but they have 2 wins in spite of Sirianni, in my opinion. All right, let's talk running backs. And I'm going to rattle off the top 5 and see if you have a problem with the order. And I'll give a quick explanation for them because there's a contingency on one of them. So first is Hubbard, who fell under 60%. Hubbard, obviously short term. If you're thinking the most long term of these next 4 after him, he's the second shortest term because number 2 has the shortest term. So we'll go through. So Hubbard, number 1, because Andy Dalton fixed the offense. And he's going to go back to being basically Devin Singletary. Like, Miles Sanders might steal a touch or 2, especially at the goal line. But in that, he'll be in the mid-20s. If bye weeks, might get it to the upper 20s. Everybody's on full slate like this week, probably mid-lower 20s. But he's there. He's usable RB2, RB3. Cam Akers is 2. Easy. Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce out. He stays number 2. Joe Mixon comes back. Nobody cares. Dameon Pierce comes back. I also don't care because it goes back to I'd compare it to the Browns from last week. I don't want to start either. It could be either. Yeah. Who knows the plan? So he could fall out completely. And then 3 is my boy, and I told you I promised I would do it. It's happening, baby! Yeah! Bucky Irving! Give him more touches. Give him more touches.
He deserves them, and Todd Bowles says he's going to give him more touches. He's got the Eagles this week, and they did a good job stopping the run last week, but I think it was more so just getting pressure in Carr's face. When you get pressure on Derek Carr, he kind of turned.
That was Derek Carr.
Dude.
That was Pumpkin Carr.
Absolutely. I was going to say
he's a month early. Halloween's not here yet.
Yeah. But no, Bucky Irving looks good, man, and it's all happening. He should be a number 1 on the list, to be honest.
So if it wasn't for like long term, he jumps Hubbard. And obviously, anything at Cam Akers, again, if you don't need Cam Akers this week, long term, it is Irving. Yeah. I will caution, as somebody who is the Irving person, I still think he's Jalen Warren of last year. I don't think Rachaad White's going to completely evaporate.
I don't either.
But I want the better talent. So number 4 is Brilliant Allen because he's getting used like Tyler Algier, but even more. And then if something were to happen to Breece Hall, boom,
he's
RB1
catching
potential.
Passes. That's the difference, I think, between him and Algier. He's catching some passes.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about that people didn't know he could catch out of college.
No. Okay. So he's catching passes. He's getting some carries. It's keeping Breece Hall fresh. As a Breece Hall owner, you may just be like, that's not what I want to see. I drafted this guy to be the RB1 overall. I've actually moved Breece down a touch in my rest of the season rankings, but I still view him as a strong RB1, and they're not going to blow out everybody. And that was kind of the case as well. We saw a little bit more Allen, but Allen's like flex-worthy conversation. I think Bucky is as well. Like, you can put these guys in as flex pieces, and we're going to get into
especially
some, like I said, really tough situations coming up. Yeah, with buys.
Yeah, the first 3 weeks of buys have a lot of fantasy talents that we drafted, which is unfortunate. Number 5 is Rico Dowdle, only because I'm hoping the Cowboys realize he's been their best option. this could be you're dropping Rico Dowdle in 2 weeks. It could be 1 week. They activate Dalvin Cook and Dowdle stays at 30% of the touches. Like that's where it is. And then I want to get to 10 real quickly because 6 is Algier, P. Ryan is 7. You see who these guys are. Chandler's 8, Justice Hill's 9. But all the way up at 10 in front of Emmanuel Wilson, Tyrone Tracy, Gibson, Garendo, Hunt, just in case that happens at some point, to Deonta Foreman, Jalen Wright, and Kenneth Gainwell. That rounds out the 8 team. Jumping all the way back up to 10, Roschon Johnson. Because of anybody in the Bears' backfield, he looked the best. Does that mean it's going to mean anything in the long term? Possibly not. The Bears' offensive line has a bunch of dudes like me trying to block people. That's how bad it is. Like, just open the gate and watch people come through and get immediately in Caleb Williams and whoever the running back is. If you didn't see the toss play on 4th down to DeAndre Swift, go back. It was pretty funny.
Poor guy.
But he looks the most he looks like if you strip the names off the jerseys and then just said, here, watch some clips of this running back, watch some clips of this running back from last week, you'd be like, that's Swift. Talking about Roschon Johnson.
That's the guy they spent all the money on in the offseason. Okay.
So are you with me on this just to take the chance that he becomes the guy? Okay.
Yeah, I am. I don't know if they'll fully go away from Swift because of like maybe they could be stubborn and just like, man, this is what we paid for Swift and we believe in him. But hey, it wouldn't be the first time that this guy's lost his job. And right, we can go back to Detroit and Williams. We said this so many times, and it's just another back that had a career year in Philadelphia that left for another team and is not finding success. Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift, right? So you mentioned the offensive line. We talked about the stuff rate over at FTN Fantasy, nearly 40% of the runs, 0 or less yards. So the line is not doing him any favors. And I don't know. I think he's just like, I've always thought he's an overrated back. Like he's kind of he's shifty with the ball in his hands. I think he's a good pass catching back, but we've really yet to see that part of it in Chicago too. So yeah, Roschon's an interesting flyer. I don't think a lot of people will really take any stabs on him. Hey, you're right. Next week it could be just nothing for him. But if you're Chicago, you need to find some other ways to move the football and use some of these other backs. Like he deserves an opportunity, and we'll see if he gets one next week.
And that's where I'm just a flyer. I mean, everybody needs flyers at this point.
A couple bucks.
If you're watching later, or if you're watching right now on YouTube, for everybody that can do this later, the reason I'm grinning through this entire thing is because I promised something on SiriusXM yesterday, and I did something during the break when Meaney was like, do I want this guy? Bye-bye. This person, bye-bye, because we were talking about dumps. And I real quickly came up with some lyrics, and I promised it was going to happen today. You might want to turn down the volume or lest your ears bleed from my singing. However, here you go, Meaney. Are you ready? We're talking Dumpsville. So, I'm dropping you tonight. You're not putting up a fight. You ain't playing right. Hey, RB, come on. I loved you endlessly when you had a good ADP. So now it's time you leave and sit on waivers. There you go.
Nice. That was great.
There you go.
I
wrote that in 30 seconds on SiriusXM during the break.
That was pretty good. Yeah, you did say you spun that up during a commercial break. I was dancing at Sean McCormick's wedding to Bye 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 on the dance floor, and you had me reminiscing my time there. So that was pretty good.
Thank you.
Drops. Who we throwing on the way? Yeah, who we throwing on the waiver wire here?
This is the order I would drop them in. So again, there's ones, and I added context on the waiver column on the site. Like when we get to number 5, I said I would drop through Braylon Allen and maybe a few more spots if you need a fill-in. Like, don't just drop them. So off the top, pretty much these first 3, I'd drop for at least everybody through Roschon Johnson and potentially more, even if you want to take a flyer on Tyrone Tracy at this point. Zamir White, you gone. Ezekiel Elliott, you gone. DeAndre Swift for Roschon Johnson, you gone. Do you have a problem with any of those?
I'm a little hesitant on the Swift to Roschon. But no, the first couple, no, not at all. And this is something I meant to bring up with you on the show yesterday.
Swift is a sabotage drop, though. Let somebody else go, oh, I have Swift in my roster. I have to start him because he's DeAndre Swift. No, let him do that and get their whopping 2 points. I'd rather drop Swift for Tracy because at least I don't have to start Tracy. I know I'm not starting Tracy. Yeah. But if something happened to Singletary, cool. Nothing's going to happen in the Chicago that's going to make me go, yeah, I'm starting DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I know. Like, Caleb had a better game, but he still makes a lot of mistakes. Like, the offense does not look good. The play calling is not great, right? You have some guys that are hurt inside that offense, and the line is what we talked about. The line was good. And for them not to dominate the line of the scrimmage against the Colts, that's a problem. That's very telling. The first couple weeks, fine. If you don't dominate the line of scrimmage against the Texans and the pressure that they could dial up, all right, we'll give you a pass on that one. But this line was supposed to be a top 5 line. It was last year down the stretch of the season, and it just hasn't been this year. So the fact that they got dominated against the Colts, which I just don't believe in their pressure and what they can dial up, is certainly concerning. I mean, think about all the holes and all the big runs that they've given up so far. So you said it perfectly at the start. It's all about context. I'm fine with these drops. I think Jerome Ford's another guy you mentioned yesterday on the sabotage drop, right, with Chubb coming back. If they are in games, you could see more Foreman, which they were behind in that game, surprisingly. And it was a little bit of Ford. So, yeah, context. I have an issue at sometimes just dropping, quote-unquote, starting running backs or just, healthy RBs. But
so you just even put them in quotes.
Right. Because we could see a little bit more Roshan. So,
all right, well, here.
I'm cool with it. But one thing I wanted to bring up with you yesterday that I said that we just got sidetracked with everything. There's so much happening on Monday was Antonio Pierce's comments. I just thought those were very interesting. He said that his players made business decisions and he was going to have to make some business decisions. And I wanted to bring up with you in the fact that maybe there's going to be a quarterback change. And as soon as we got off the air, we heard that there's maybe going to be a quarterback change. It's usually how it works. I don't think Aiden can help this offense move at all, but as total sidebar here, I just wonder if that business decision is to maybe heavily lean on a guy like Alexander Madison. I don't know if you care about him.
Oh, God, no.
But he may just be a guy that gets okay, Zamir, see you later, dude.
If you told me today Madison got the Zamir White workload from last year, obviously I would have to buy in. I just don't know.
Touch because he can catch.
It's a full 3 running backs, though. It's not Abdul is still in the mix. And I just don't know. Again, maybe Pierce shocks me, but really what it comes down to, as I even mentioned this for Jacoby Myers at the wide receivers, he's in the wide receivers, and Trey Tucker is in the meh, I'll pass. I don't want anything to do with Tucker. Because the only 2 people you can start on the Raiders are Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers. That's the end of the list. You can't start anybody else. So maybe if something shifts with that, we'll be talking differently. And if you have deeper league bench spots, go right ahead. Stash Madison in case that switch happens. It's a good point. The next 3, Javonte Williams, I'm dumping for everybody through Algier. Again, Algier, I'm not starting. Javonte Williams is going to be I kind of want to, maybe, what? No, the entire Broncos backfield is duck crap, dude. It's so bad. What did I say in the preseason? I wasn't even expecting this. I tongue-in-cheek was hey, Sean Payton's used 4 running backs before. Wasn't expecting that to happen. And granted, they were getting, blowing the doors off the Buccaneers, but still, Batty out there for, basically the entire fourth quarter. I'm dumping Williams all the way through. Yeah. Now, again, I'm not dropping Javonte Williams for Tyrone Tracy, but he's at least pushing down the list. And then the next 2 is Gus Edwards, is basically only through Braylon Allen, and so is Chase Brown, because Gus Edwards is definitively a next man up now at this point, and J.K. Dobbins has that backfield, but if something happens to Dobbins, and he's had injuries, so this is only 4 or 5 running backs I'm dropping him for. Same thing with Chase Brown. And if anybody watched that game, I'm surprised the Dolphins didn't try to trade for him this all season, because if you didn't see they threw up the stat about the miles per hour in Chase Brown, over 22 miles per hour, one of the fastest, and every time he touches the ball, it's legit people use that exploding out of a cannon type of thing. That's what he looks like, though. It's boom, he's got it, and he's already 3 yards upfield. But it's all Zach Moss, or 70% Zach Moss.
It is. And even last night when I was looking forward to this just to see, because they were down in that game and they were moving the ball pretty quickly, and it wasn't Chase Brown. on the field. It
No.
was Zach Moss who was on the field. They were running with him, and they threw him a couple passes. Chase Brown had some really nice runs. I don't want to take anything away, but, man, there were some massive holes at times for both him and Zach Moss against Washington's run defense. But he does look really explosive. And, if anything happened to Moss, like, maybe you could feel a lot better about him. But it is going to be a whole
James
lot
Conner and Marvarati. That's what I call Marvin Harrison now.
Nice.
I like it. I don't care if anybody else doesn't like it.
Yeah.
James Conner and Marvarati are going to go bonkers in week 4 against this team.
They really are. And again, credit to Washington, but the defense is still absolutely atrocious. And there's so many holes. So many lanes were opened up for both of those running backs yesterday. Chase had some really big runs.
You could actually fit a Maserati through one of those holes.
Yeah, you could. And Marv should eat them up too. I mean, there should be no issue. Not a hot take. We expected the big game from Chase last night. We said it. He was plus 120 for a touchdown. We're like, he's going to get right, and so is Burrow, but the defense couldn't help him out at all. The Denver situation is completely frustrating. Like they really should lean a little bit more on Javonte, and Jaleel has been week 1. That's it. He hasn't really touched the football and been relevant. So and plus Bo Nix runs, and he's got a couple of rushing touchdowns. So you can't feel good about maybe one of them will fall into the end zone with a rushing touchdown. It just hasn't been happening.
No, it's been disgusting. But there are some waiver wide receivers out there for people, of course, led by the great Hall of Famer, Jauan Jennings. He's already put his jersey up. And look, tongue in cheek, it even says this in the column. If George Kittle comes back, just George Kittle. So, here, real quick, the next 3, Quentin Johnston is still there at 2. Everybody's afraid the bye in the schedule, although he showed up last week again. A touchdown helps. But Quentin Johnston 2, Romeo Doubs 3. Romeo Doubs, I have nothing left to say about this point. You obviously don't want him, but
yeah,
he's still the one. It's more so waiting for Jordan Love to come back. Obviously, Jaden Reed is the only one you can use until Love comes back because, by the way, Coach, can we just give out Coach of the Year right now to LaFleur? Just do it. Like, hey, you are a mastermind of making an offense work with people. Anyway, sidebar there. But Quentin Johnston and Romeo Doubs 2 and 3. Hopkins is 4. So Hopkins was actually in Dumpsville last year, but again, last week Hopkins was in for I don't even remember who it was Quentin Johnston and Romeo Doubs, and it was similar to the Chase Brown situation. Shallower leagues, if you need somebody to produce because of the knee, that's who. And then the list stopped after 5, and people were like, I can't believe you told me to drop Hopkins. I said context. I said not unless it's one of the big names. That's why I'm bringing this up to come back to Jennings. Is to say, if Kittle comes back, I would actually put Jennings behind Hopkins. As crazy. Does that sound crazy? So Kittle is back. He's still top 5. He's actually 4, but it would actually go Johnston, Doubs, Hopkins, Jennings if Kittle is back.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Because also Debo's going to come back at some point too, right? I mean, it's this week. It's
2-3 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2-3 weeks. It's, hey, you got him on your roster, sell high. I have him a couple spots, wasn't even able to start him. I'm going to try to float him around this week coming off that big performance. If there's some sort of setback with Debo, that would be a mistake, right? He would be serviceable, I think, without Debo. Even with Kittle coming back, I still think as a flex play, given the offense, I would roll him out without Debo Samuel. But at some point, Debo comes back. Ayuk wakes up, you think. And then he falls back to just being a guy that he catches passes on third down in Shanahan's offense. Hopkins still played behind Treylon Burks, but he did lead the team in targets, and he seemed a little bit more healthier there. And we know what his ceiling looks like. Quentin Johnston, I still like, and we talked about the tough schedule, and hey, he was able to get a touchdown, which is good. But the Chargers effed up playing Herbert in that game. That's something else I wanted to talk to you about as well. And now they may need to move forward over the next couple weeks without Herbert, or he's going to have to play through this injury on top of the plantar fasciitis all year long. So if there's no Herbert under center, that's going to stink for the breakout that we're seeing from Quentin Johnston. And it's going to suck for the 2 running backs because they're going to stack boxes against Easton Stick, whoever the hell is under center for the Chargers if it's not Herbert.
It's Taylor Heineke. It's not Easton Stick. It's Heineke, man.
Either way.
Heineke will be fine for Ladd McConkey. And then
for Ladd McConkey,
the random Johnston game that
he might be okay for Johnston.
It would be random. It'd be a lot more random. That's the issue. But hey, don't you besmirch the name of Taylor Heineke, the ODU great.
I wanted you to give him some love. I know he's your guy. Right?
The second greatest ODU graduate behind me.
They still screwed up playing Herbert. They shouldn't have tossed him out.
I don't disagree
clearly
with you.
Was not ready to play.
Which is so. It's funny that Mayo Pat Mayo argue with me on his show on Monday, and he said he definitively thinks the Packers hold out Love another week because you're playing with house money because you've gotten the wins with Willis. But I said this. I said I'm not so certain because here's why. Who do they get this week? Minnesota at home. Minnesota's 3-0. The Packers' one loss is a conference, not a division game. It's a conference game, but that matters in the standings for tie breaks. And then if you start 0-2 in the conference, 0-1 in the division, you let Minnesota get out to a 4-0 lead to start the season. And look, I'm not saying they're starting Jordan Love. I'm just thinking the team, LaFleur, might be thinking that facet and be like, maybe we get Love out there. And I would hate to see that happen for the same Herbert situation unless he's ready, and he's ready. I don't want to see the Packers do the same thing because I'll bring that up as a cautionary. Maybe you don't go super aggressive if Dobbs is still sitting out there in the same way. Maybe you don't go super aggressive on Johnston. And maybe the answer is actually Hopkins because as bad as Levis is, he's the safest of all of them. Go a little bit deeper here. I have Jalen Nailor at 5, purely on if no Jordan Addison. If Jordan Addison comes back, I think Nailor's done enough that I'm actually concerned about Jordan Addison now. Not that I think he's lost the job, but I think this could be JSN and JSN and Lockett, and the fact that one good game for the one good game for the other, mediocre game for both, and it's just going to be a frustrating going forward situation.
Yeah, Naylor's healthy, and he's got a touchdown in every game. So clearly Sam Darnold's looking his way, and he's never going to garner top attention. They don't have anything at the tight end position just yet either. Got to remember long-term, T.J. Hawkinson's going to be in the fold and in the mix. So I am with you on Jordan Addison. I'm sour. I love the player. I love the talent. He could be a buy low candidate for you in dynasty leagues if your team goes sour this year, but I'm not. I would actually say nail the rest of the season on Addison. I don't know if that's a hot take, but that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, okay. They're both just flex plays, I think, though, when everybody's ready to go.
Let's run through the rest real quickly. Well, most of them, because 6 is Mooney, who we continue to talk about at length. I'm done. Just a grimacing smirky emoji, whatever you want to call it, because I have nothing to say. I know. I'm skipping past 7 because I'm coming back to him. Atwell's at 8. Tyler Lockett at 9. We already talked about. Michael Wilson at 10, only if Trey McBride is out. Mike Williams might end up being wrong on this one because Alan Lazard is still completely in the mix as Williams is getting to 100%. I still have hope that he's down at 11 now in front of DeMarcus Robinson. Josh Downs being in the mix, but Anthony Richardson can't throw a ball correctly. Noah Brown's down to 14. Judy, Lazard, Coleman, Calvin Austin, if you're really taking a flyer. I called him their version of Wan'Dale Robinson, who is at 19. And then Jacoby Myers and everything. But to come all the way back to number 7, Adam Thielen is out for a few weeks. It's Xavier Legette time. It's time for who I called him, Rashid Shaheed, with better hands and more consistency. Now, does that hit as a rookie? But I'm taking Legette over all those names, including Atwell. Are you with me, Chris Meaney?
Yeah, I forget some of the names you had up front, but I wonder if we could push them a little bit higher, just given Andy Dalton and the number 2 Austin there.
Nailor, Mooney, maybe Nailor if Addison's back. I mean, definitively Nailor if Addison's back, you would take him over that. Yeah. I would slide Nailor all the way down to Mike Williams territory if Addison's back.
Yeah, and you know what? He won't, even though with the Adam Thielen injury, I don't think he's going to cost people a lot of money. I think some people will go to, maybe the Dallas guys and Tolbert or Turpin, or maybe they go to Austin.
Don't do that.
No, I agree. But I think people are more in tune of what just happened, recency bias. And I think Legette is a really good pickup. Andy Dalton, man. I saw something on TikTok yesterday. It was from Goodwill Hunting, and when
I saw that too.
Did you see it? Matt Damon's like, and you know how easy this is for me? You know how easy this is? He gets in there. I just thought that was the best. Oh man, he gets in there and he
so
just
bad for him.
yes. Oh man, Bryce Young is just I'm sure Bryce was just, it definitely tough for him, especially the way everybody in the locker room was just like, that's how you play football. That's Carolina Panther football. And everybody's jacked like they won the Super Bowl. And I'm just like, Bryce is in the corner. Like, oh my goodness, this sucks. But Andy Dalton's a good quarterback. Clearly, he's going to do things for Diontae. I would try to buy low on Brooks if he can, because he's going to come back soon and he's going to be a factor.
Yeah, but let's also remember, Andy Dalton, plenty of 100-yard games with 1 touchdown 2 years ago with the Saints. He's not perfect.
At the Bengals this week, he may just torch that secondary and squad up. My goodness, they played brutal last night. Yeah, you can get some revenge on them.
He's got revenge schedule coming up. He's got multiples. Let's see. He gets all 4. I told you if he plays, because let's see, Saints are all the way down before the Giants late in the season. Yeah, but he gets all 4 if he plays basically through week 15. All right, real quick before we finish things up. Hunter Henry, Cole Kmet, Brock Wright, Zach Ertz, Brenton Strange, any of those tight ends your favorite? Obviously, there's a lot of contingencies in there. Kmet, no Allen. Rock, no Rock. I'm going to just call him Rock now. Brock Wright, no Laporta, and Strange, no Ingram. So is it still just Henry? Is Henry just the answer?
Yeah, I like Ertz. I think he does enough. Like, there's no ceiling there.
Yeah.
There's no ceiling there. I mean, his props of cash, for anybody who likes the props, I mean, it's 2.5 catches every week, guys. Like, and he's done it every week. And you could see, what was it, 4 or 5 grabs yesterday, a couple third down situations. Maybe he's the guy on third down for Cliff and Jaden Daniels. But yeah, there's no ceiling. You mentioned it yesterday. The tight end position is worse than you could have even imagined, especially with all these injuries. And then you have Kelsey and Andrews just not doing anything at all. So yeah, I would. No, nothing. Anyways.
Ban tight ends only.
I wouldn't buy low on either of those guys either, by the way. Kelsey or Andrews. What are you doing?
You're going to buy a t-shirt if they make them? You're going to buy a ban tight ends only? Tight ends only. Make it wide receiver / tight end. You just can't ban tight ends only starting position. Like, I mean, you gotta kind of have to like trim it at some point. Like,
and the starting tight end position is like
just like a very long.
The guy that I didn't care about, turns out he may just be, I don't want to say a league winner. Dallas Goedert may just be really good for you over the next few weeks.
Because of injuries, yeah.
Yeah, because of injuries, that's it. But at the same time, there's no Devontae this week, right? You're not doubling up Paris Campbell and Covey or
if he's even out there, Dotson. You know.
You're stacking boxes against Barkley and taking away Goddard.
Well, speaking of Barkley over there sleeping away, make sure you're following Chris Meaney at Chris Meaney over at FTN. All the great tools to get you ready. The waiver column is out. The ranks will be out midnight Tuesdays as always, and we'll be back for ranks later this week. Possibly switch up of days with the mailbag, so make sure you send your questions, hashtag all in answers over at Twitter, and you know where to find me. And we'll see you guys later. And that'll be the end of the show. And at some point I'll get cut off. And I'm not saying
bye.
There you go. Oh, look at that.